But you know, behind it, all of the supply of electricity is maintained in a consistent way that you know that you're not going to get surges, you're not going to get your too much or too little. You know that your laptop, your whatever it is, your smartphone as you're charging it, will work. And the same with Wi-Fi. The whole thing about Wi-Fi is that there's standards there, and when I come, I know all of my different equipment, it will all work together and work on the Wi-Fi in Silicon, Silicon Oasis here, just as it will back in London. So standards are really important to make all of that happen. And we need to get them right, and they're very complicated to do. We've talked about open data. It's not just about technical standards. It's about how you make the databases, what you call things, ontologies, as they say, to make sure that the vocabulary you use matches with the vocabulary other people use. It's about how you manage that data. It's about how you open that data up between organizations in order to make sure that data can easily be found, so how you tag it, and make sure that there's a way of making it available under the right conditions so that if I need a certain kind of data, I know who to go to for it and what I need to do to make sure that I'm eligible to use it. And then how can I maintain the security and the data privacy when that data is starting to be shared all around. And so there are lots of different challenges that need to be tackled all together before that data can become really open to everybody. And you need people with all sorts of different expertise to get together in groups and to work through what their bit of it is, but alongside what the other pieces are, to make sure that the whole thing fits together. And that's standards work. And the fantastic thing is that around the world, as we've heard, there are bodies now that are really working hard to understand all of these different aspects, and the challenge is how we can bring all of these things together. And the reason why it's important and why we're trying to get people like yourselves involved is that standards bodies are very good at working with industry, but usually with big industry, with the IBMs and the Ericssons and so on, they're not very good at engaging with small entrepreneurial businesses that don't have time to spend on going to long involved workshops, but still have a really important voice in the whole process. So one of the things we're trying to think about is how can we make it easy for you guys who are busy making the key applications that make this whole thing worthwhile to feed in your requirements to make sure that the standards that are built will work for you and not just for the Microsofts and IBMs of this world. And then for those of you who are involved in government, that's again an area where standards bodies aren't very good at engaging. We need to know what governments need in order to make sure that the things that are developed will help their cities work better. So in closing, just to say that I've got my card with me. Please come up to me. I've got the details there, how you can look up about the City Protocol Society and join the City Protocol Task Force, and also how you can get involved in what I'm calling city building blocks, about how we can start to build these smart city standards together to make sure they work not only for industry, not only for government, but also for the citizen to make all of our lives much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Just our last speaker today is Tariq Hajiri. Tariq is the legal director at Dubai Economic Council. And we've talked about regulation, and we're both lawyers, I think, for our sins. So perhaps you can share with us some insights into the regulatory. You've obviously got a big interest in regulation and how that's playing out in Dubai. So I think we'd be very interested to hear some insights
thank you very much,
into
Chris. And I'm going to actually copy from Michael so many things from what he said. But the word copy, actually I will start my legal comments on it. So legal standards, you can't copy laws and regulations, but you can tailor it. So same thing what I'm going to copy from Michael, what he said, but I need to tailor it. And exactly the same strategy how policies work. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just look at the best practice, and then you tailor it into a best fit, because you can't just copy laws. We have heard about the smart cities, about database, about data sharing. Michael also just commented on utilizing it, information, challenges about data storage, how you can make data, how you can manage it, how you can use it, how you can work on it, maintain security of it. All these things actually raises questions of legal challenges. How you can live in a society or in a city where you feel kind of, as the gentleman stated, monitored. How you are gonna live your life, how you are gonna actually start your day by waking up, going to school, dropping your kids, and then you go to office, where all is what we call smart city, transportation, healthcare, education is very important. And Michael, you started, or you mentioned something about standards of smart city should work and should fit together. Same thing, actually, laws and regulations. It must actually work. So having laws or, let's say, legal infrastructure that does not work in harmony, we can't have a sociable or, livable city. The legal or the regulators look at smart city from different aspects, actually. There's two phases: the creation of smart city, and there is the other one, which is living in a smart city. So how we can maintain your rights, how we can protect you, how you can protect your privacy, how you can, from misuse, from invasion of privacy. All this actually creates questions of, do we have laws? And if we have laws, is it smart? So the question is, do we have smart governance, as we can say? And as we mentioned, for the subject or for the topic of smart city is very important for what we have regulation. Do we have laws that supports innovation? Do we have laws that protects from punishing from failures? As we know, innovation doesn't come, from one trial. So there should be a legal infrastructure where we support small, medium enterprises, because this is actually, and I have my friend here from Dubai SME, we have spoken about that. You can't have smart city without smart SMEs. Innovation comes mostly from small and medium hands. So this is something which is very important. When we want to talk about laws, we think about the regulatory dilemma, like the seesaw balance. Like, do we go through more regulations or less regulations? How, do we leave things for the people to actually manage, to organize their living, and to what extent? So what extent actually the government should interfere in regulating smart cities, I can say. It should be balanced, of course, and the most important, it should be smart. We in the UAE actually have several laws that actually advance, and of course we need to improve it, but most of it that it's up to the international standards. We have, coming from a law firm practicing intellectual property, we do have good, intellectual property laws like copyrights. We do have electronic, like the e-commerce. We have a law regarding the prevention of information technology crimes. We do have a lot of laws that really supports smart city. However, we definitely need to look at others and to try to accommodate with our needs, because we can't copy, as we said, and smart city should be kind of really fit our culture, fit UAE. So we can't compare two smart cities. Like, we want Dubai or UAE smart city, for example, like the smart city in Singapore or let's say in the UK. I believe that we have to really think of the laws, when we draft, so to accommodate that. What kind of legal infrastructure? It has to be fast, very simple to be used, very clear, unified. And of course, we have to think of privacy and security, and very much we have to look at ethics. You know, when we talk about smart city, we have to really look at ethics, how it works within this completely, or the full structure. We have to have local, but of course global laws or practical laws. We have to have internet governance, how it should work. We have to, of course, think of regulations that deal with the social media, which is very important, as we have seen, the data management, and of course smart government, smart services, innovation. We have to have laws that really advance innovation and protects inventors, small inventors. Frankly, it's very important. And of course, as we just stated, doesn't punish for failure. You know, for example, we are now working on, we do have bankruptcy law. However, we are now working on a much better, let's say, draft of bankruptcy law. So to what extent we can promote, failure, like through trials, with goodwill, of course. Support SMEs, Alexander, my friend. We talk a lot about, SMEs. And do we have proper laws that really make these SMEs fit within the smart city concept? Do we have this or we don't? Definitely in the UAE, we are working on most of it, and we have reached to frankly, to a very, I can say, a convenient stage. However, the sky is the limit, and the standard is very high. Our rulers, they set the standard for us, frankly, for government officials, is that competitiveness is a daily, if not an hourly, principle in our life. So we have to really think of, are we doing our job in a competitive manner? It's not about are we doing our job and full stop. No, in a very competitive way. We talk about, and this is something I will end, with this, which I really love to use, although that, for some who maybe attended some of my previous events, which is what I call the camel riding story, which actually happened in front of me, and I learned a lot from it. I was in my daughter's school, and they were in the National Day organizing some events for the kids. And one of the teachers was trying to reach to organize a queue for all the kids to go and have an opportunity. There was one camel, and he wants everybody to just ride on it. And he spent maybe like 20 minutes trying to talk with parents. And this is something which is very important. Please, if you can just make one queue for 20 minutes and without any kind of benefit. There was another teacher, sports actually teacher, was very smart, who approached the kids, and this is what actually I really want to really focus. He spoke with the kids, and what he said, parents out of the course, and only kids must be here. Whoever a parent is in the queue will not have a possibility for his kid to have the camel or to ride the camel. So all of us went out, and with one sentence, with one statement, he said, kids, one queue in seconds. Everybody was in queue, proper queue. This is exactly what I really can end my presentation, is that we need to focus on the young generation, is the kids, how we are going to educate them to accommodate a global thinking or global way of living within smart city. So we think of education, and we think of public awareness, mainly about kids. And thank you very much.
We do have some time for questions. I've got one there. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for the great panel, great discussion. It's really amazing. My name is Liwa Abu Khair. I come from a small SME in Dubai, NFC Medic, Smart Health Solution. The only missing that this panel is the operators, the mobile operators. My question for Mr. Falassi and the distinguished panelists, how do you see the role of the mobile operators in building the smart city, especially that we are eating out of their revenues, free Wi-Fi, free data, free browsing, free. Who will be paying for this new smart infrastructure? And what will the operators be main role in making up for the lost revenues in free data concept? Thank you.
I think that still the carrier will be always behind us and taking the money. That's for sure. Yeah. So we will be paying for this one for a reason or the other. And also there is always the concept of advertisement. So it is really to capture your information. You will be giving your information in return of a free service. So you are willing to give that information. So the advertisers, who will be there will cover the cost of the service. So in a nutshell, the infrastructure provider will be there to take and overcharge us. Yes, we are looking for a smart city that will reach to a Google infrastructure in the future, but I don't know how fast anybody here from Do? No. They should tell us how fast they will be really in that really. Yeah.
So I think that's a very interesting question. So I'm looking forward to the day when we drop the smart from all of this, healthcare, education, because we don't want to do anything dumb, right? So everything that we do should be smart. So I'm looking forward to the time when we remove that. And when we buy a phone, it's a phone. We don't talk about a smartphone anymore, and I used that example earlier. So everything that we should do should be in that direction. Yes, there is a challenge for operators and as well, because both companies are big suppliers to the operators. Operators are fundamental to enabling smart cities to achieve some of the things that we're talking about. We had a gentleman from Do talk today. What we're talking about, mobile broadband, basically, right? And the use of mobile. I think there's going to be a space for all of these different ways of working. I used my personal example before. When I only had 100 megabytes of data, I was always looking for a free Wi-Fi hotspot. Right? I don't bother anymore because I can't use the data that